It's 8:45 p.m. on Thursday, the 22nd of December 2016, and this is the final TCW podcast of the year, and as always, we're live. Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Cat's Whiskers podcast. My name is Jono Bullard. We're going to be looking ahead to all the Panthers games over the festive period, and also we're going to pick out our highs and lows over the whole of 2016. As this is our last podcast of the year, we'll be taking a break next week for Christmas, and we will be back on Tuesday the 3rd of January. I'm delighted to say that to chew the fat, or the Christmas fat, this week is Paul Balm.
Hello.
Antoine Marie-Jeanne.
Hi,
Sorry, that wasn't Tina Taylor. And Aaron Lord.
Hello.
Right, we're going to get straight into it. There's a lot to look forward to. 6 games coming up for the Panthers over the festive period. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do via Twitter. It's at Cats Whiskers TV. Send us your tweets if you're listening live. Also, your own personal high and low points for the Panthers this season. It'd be great to get your tweets, and we will read out as many as we can during the show. So we're going to start with tomorrow night, Friday, the Panthers taking on the Dundee Stars in an Elite League game with a 7:30pm face-off at the NIC. Unfortunately, Jason Williams will not be available for this game. He will be flying in tomorrow, but won't be available for the match. So I'll start with you, Ant. Do you think this is a game we should be looking to win?
Based on Dundee's recent run of form, definitely. I know they won one game last week, but we're at home for starters. We need to stop stringing wins together if we're going to build momentum for the end of the season.
Yeah, Aaron?
Yeah, I agree. I think any home game we should be looking to win, and tomorrow night should be no option. And I think obviously in the run up to Christmas, it's important that we get off to a good foot, and that starts tomorrow night against Dundee.
Yeah, Paul.
I think probably we should, but it's one of these games you can't take for granted. Dundee they've shown that they can win games. Look at what they did to Edinburgh at the weekend. But
absolutely, yeah.
It's one of those games you'd hope we could win.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, looking at Dundee's recent record, they've had not a great time of it recently. They was in some good form about a month ago, but they had the Challenge Cup quarter-final second leg in Cardiff last night, which they lost 4-2. They lost 4-3 on penalties to Edinburgh last Saturday, and now a 10-3 home victory sandwiched in between that on Sunday evening. You're right, they can't be taken for granted, but with the form that the Panthers currently find themselves in, and we should be looking to win this game and win well.
I'd take a 1-0 scrapey, half deflected effort. To be honest, I don't care how we win, as long as we win. It's that sort of thing now. We need to build wins. Wins build confidence. The performances will come from that confidence. Is Tanaka going to be fit? Do we know? Because I know he's missed a couple of games.
I believe not. I believe he's still out.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, there goes one entertaining factor from the game anyway.
Yeah, you're a big fan of his, aren't you?
I love him. Absolutely love him.
He's probably hiding. I mean, for this time of year, turkeys they want to watch out, don't they?
Oh dear. Anybody to watch out for on the Dundee side, because their netminder Fallon Aaron has been in good form most of the season. In fact, he's been stealing some wins for them.
Yes, and we know all about netminders coming into our arena and taking the game away from us, and he certainly has the capability to do that. But and this is obviously no disrespect to Dundee, but if if we're only kind of talking about, we should win this, then it kind of shows you what kind of season we are potentially having. The fact of the matter is that we are supposedly one of the big clubs, and if we're going to be challenging, for honours, I will say, not necessarily highlighting the league, even though it is a league game, then, in our own arena, teams like Dundee, we should win, and we should have that mentality tomorrow. Whether the netminder has a storming game or a stinker, it's a bit like Ant says, it's about getting the victory, isn't it? And if that does come by a 1-0, scrape off the backside or off a skate, as long as it's not kicking in, then it's a positive result for us. And there's a lot of games to go. So
yeah, okay. So we will move on to Monday and Tuesday, so Boxing Day and the 27th. 2 games against the Sheffield Steelers. The first will take place Boxing Day at the Sheffield Arena with a 4 p.m. face-off. Tuesday at the NIC, face-off at the same time. Paul, both these games have sold out. Does it prove that they're still a massive draw?
Obviously. They wouldn't sell out if they weren't.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of people who say, the rivalry's stale and blah-de-blah-de-blah, but you get these 2 games that's going to have a combined attendance of around 16,500 people.
Yeah, but what you've also got is the people who go to one hockey game a year.
True.
And before anybody says, I can only go to so many games or whatever, I know for a fact, because I was speaking to people last year who were saying, quite proudly that, this is the only game we go to every year. But so, it is the draw. You can argue whether the rivalry has gone stale or not till you blue in the face. But there's also the draw, because these are the 2 teams people know. Nottingham Panthers. They play against Sheffield. When they're playing against Sheffield, they play at Christmas. We'll go to that, and vice versa. So, it's obviously a big draw. Whether it's gone stale or not, I don't really think so. But there may be people who do. I don't know.
There is still a few tickets available for the Steelers game in Sheffield.
About 20 though. I mean,
I've literally just clicked on the website, and it is 1 seat available. And if you want to be surrounded by people dressed as tangos. I don't get it myself. Well, the one thing I don't get even more than that is people then coming on going, has anybody got any tickets? Because I didn't realise they went on sale, even though they're constantly talked about for 3-4 weeks running up. I don't see why there's such a big draw for the 2 games, if I'm honest. I'm not looking forward to it. It's like it's getting in the way of my Christmas celebrations, if I'm perfectly honest. But mind you, that's because we've been bloody awful against them lot recently this season.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, Aaron. We go into the Sheffield Arena on Boxing Day having lost our previous 3 games there this season, conceded something like, I think, 21 goals.
Yeah.
It's not a great record, and that needs to change quickly.
It does. And I just think if, very quickly, just on obviously the previous question, I think Nottingham has always sold out, for a couple of seasons now. I think it's more the Sheffield Arena selling out that's more impressive, and I think that just comes because they've won back-to-back leagues. They market the club very, very well, and they look as if they spend a lot of money on the marketing. So I think that's more impressive regarding the 2 selling out. But yeah, obviously we have had some poor results in that arena this season. They've been very freakish kind of results, and I think sometimes these games are a little bit different, and I think the kind of Boxing Day sporting event that is famous in this kind of country, football, people go to these games. It feels like it's something a little bit more special than if it was a league game in the middle of February or beginning of November. But as with any stat, that has to be turned around at some point. You know, you talk about results and, you know, we've lost the last 10, for example. Well, eventually you're going to win that game. And, you know, I think from a Panthers point of view, we've just got to wipe those last 3 results completely out of the minds, because I think we're seeing a different Panthers side these last couple of weeks to what those results were. And I just hope that obviously that's reflected in our performance on Boxing Day, because, you know, the result is slightly different. We didn't perform in the Sheffield Arena. If you think back to the 8-1, you know, we just didn't perform at all. So I think first of all the performance has got to be there, and then if you have that good performance, then you stand yourself in good stead to get the right result.
Well, if you think as well, what could this do for our season if we do fantastically manage to get 2 wins against your biggest rivals back to back? It could be a turning point in our season, and maybe a miraculous late charge for the title,
or push the Devils closer towards it.
Yeah, well, there is that as well.
Be honest though, and I've got to say I am dreading Boxing Day, absolutely dreading it. Do you honestly think we can go there and get 2 wins back to back against a team that has pretty much had our number for most of the season?
Personally, no.
I mean, go on.
I was just going to say, I think on our day we could, yes, I do, and I think obviously if Jason Williams, I know obviously you can't expect the man to come in and just flick a switch and all of a sudden we are better than the Steelers. We're not better than the Steelers this year in my eyes, but that doesn't mean that we can't beat them. I think when you're talking about Boxing Day and you're talking about going into that arena, which will be a sellout, I'm sure those 20 tickets or whatever's left will sell. You're going to have, you know, a rowdy bunch of what's-its all around the arena. It's going to be visually, you know, intense, etc. And it's just imperative that we start strong, because you don't want to give them any more momentum than what they're going to have. The best thing we could do is get an early goal and, you know, set ourselves up from that going on.
I mean, the Steelers playing Coventry Blaze tonight in Coventry. They're 2-0 up in the second period, and to go with a 6-1 victory that they had against the Blaze last night, you know, they're starting to pick up form again.
I think that was down to Mustakov. So from reading Twitter last night, people saying that he had a very good game. I know Paul and Jono, you won't believe that for a second, but apparently, you know, if it wasn't for him, the Blaze could have got some more goals and it might have been slightly different. So I think putting him under a lot of pressure and testing him and obviously his quality catching skills might be an opportunity for us.
I mean, the thing with him, I've from what I've seen of him all season, is he will give away rebounds. You park someone in front of the net looking for the rebound, you'll score goals.
Yeah, and the reason that one of the reasons Sheffield have been doing so well is that Thompson has got the defence playing so that they know, you know, sort of to try and, you know, anticipate where those rebounds are going to go. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like when they had Jody Lehman.
Yeah,
pucks would be bouncing up him left, right, and centre, but the defence knew where it was going to go, so they were able to clean it up, and that's the, you know, that's one of the things that, you know, Sheffield have been doing well. He is, you know, regardless of, you know, what you might think, he is going to give up those rebounds, and they know how to deal with them.
Of course, Jason Williams is expected to make his debut in the Boxing Day game on Monday. This will give him 3 days to recover from his flight, maybe get a training session under his belt as well. I mean, Ant, do you think that's going to be an advantage for him?
I'd hope so. I mean, by all accounts, he's been keeping himself fit anyway, but just doing gym work and what have you is never going to replicate game fitness and what have you. So hopefully he is he does fly in time on Friday. I'm kind of hoping that if he's at the game on Friday, he gets announced onto the ice before the game, just to like give the crowd a wave or whatever. You know, you have it sometimes in football where the new signing's not been signed in time, but he'll come out and they'll be parading before the match or whatever. But get him time to sit down and watch the game and sort of get an idea of what the Elite League's all about, get a feel for what the British fans are like and what have you. It can only help. It can only help, and obviously going in then playing Sheffield, he's not played before. They've not had a chance to scout him.
Yeah, we've had a tweet in from Colin Basford, and he says, "I think Steelers may underestimate us, and we will take advantage. We are now a different animal." I mean, Paul, this is a point I think you've made about Cardiff in the past couple of weeks after the 8-0 and the victory last Sunday. That did they underestimate us? Were they complacent? Is that something you can see the Steelers being? Because I've got to be honest, I can't.
No. To be honest, me neither. I mean, you know, it's well, you know, people in the Sheffield organisation will tell us every chance they get that beating us is drilled into them from day one. So, you know, any chance to that they're going to look and look at that 8-1 and that 6-1 and think, yeah, look how much the fans enjoy that. Let's try and do that again. So I get what Colin's saying. I'm not entirely sure which sort of different animal we are. Probably a slightly wounded one. But there's the same token. If you corner a wounded animal, it will fight back. That's the first thing it will do a lot of the time. So who knows? I can't see them being complacent. But I mean, we didn't think we were going to beat Cardiff, did we?
True, that's very true. Both were very, very pleasant and surprising results. Okay. All right, so we will leave the Steelers there. The game's still coming thick on fast. Next Thursday, Panthers travel to the Sky Dome to take on the Coventry Blaze with a 7:30 p.m. face-off, and then we'll face them on New Year's Eve at the NIC with a 3 p.m. face-off. Time to listen to a different... Yeah, we're definitely sure. Time to listen to a different voice than ours. Earlier tonight, I got the chance to speak to the Blaze TV webcast commentator Ed Kimberley, and this is what he had to say about both games and the Blaze. 2 games for the Panthers coming up on Thursday the 29th of December and also New Year's Eve at the NIC, both against the Coventry Blaze. To help look forward to them, I'm delighted to welcome to the podcast the Blaze TV commentator Ed Kimberley.
Oh, hey John, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thanks for coming on, because I know you're about to commentate on tonight's game again between Blaze and Steelers, so I appreciate you taking the time to have a quick word with us before that.
Oh, it's my pleasure, John. Thanks for asking.
So, 2 games against the Blaze and Panthers. I think you can pretty much say over the past couple of seasons, it's generally been a home banker, depending on who's at home.
Yeah, that's generally been the run of things. Both teams have had scary nights in their own barns too, though, don't forget. Both teams are in interesting phases of the season. Very, very similar in terms of how their results are going. They have a good win, followed by a couple of interesting losses. Both very close proximity in the table at time of recording. Both very similar in terms of depth as well. The Blaze running 4 good lines. The Nottingham Panthers, of course, running 4 good lines as well, with NHL experience down there and Brian McGrattan as well. So yeah, two really good teams. Obviously, there's a lot of history there, and I know they usually play each other on Boxing Day. I know that's not happening this year, but I guess New Year's Eve will settle for that instead.
Yeah. Obviously, the Blaze have picked up a bit of form, apart from you've lost your last 2. But they have picked up a bit of form recently. How much of that has been due to TJ Signer and Barry Almeida coming in?
Well, I mean, as you know, John, there's been Panthers teams down the line, I'm sure, that have struggled to score as many goals as they'd have liked, and had to make some changes. When you struggle to score goals, other areas of your game where you have some weaknesses quickly get exposed, and get exposed a lot harder than if you were able to score even 2-3 a game. The Blaze really were struggling for form. So, it was almost inevitable that changes were going to come. Steiner and Almeida, you just get two players who played with each other since they were kids, cousins through marriage. They play a lot of pro hockey together, super nice guys as well. You have that ready-made chemistry, and that's so important. They've got 66% of the Blaze top line now with Captain Jordan Peters on there. And they're in great shape, John, honestly. I commented to them the other day. I watched, I think it was a game against the Brayhead Clan, and they skated for 60 minutes. The empty net goal there, I think it was Steiner, busted himself 200 feet to pick up the puck in the far corner and fed it out to Almeida, who busted 200 feet to get into the middle of the slot to make sure he finished off the play. Two very, very talented players at this level, and very exciting to have them in their Blaze colours.
How different is this Blaze side under Danny Stewart to what it was last season under Chuck Webber?
It's interesting. The last two teams under Chuck have been very, very stylistic. They've had an identity set out from day one. They've had systems set out from day one, and they have really been kind of quite rigid and regimented. And at times that worked really well for them. Don't forget, Chuck Webber won the first trophy for the Coventry Blaze in a few years, and almost defended it last season. Danny is very much a player's coach. Chuck, I was a very good friend of Chuck Webber's when he was here, and never played pro hockey. He played a little bit in college, I think. Danny obviously had a great long career, knows the game over here, has been here for years, had his family here, won trophies with the Coventry Blaze. He's the ultimate player's coach, in my opinion. The guys like to play for him. He'll defend them when they need defending, and he'll put the rocket up them when he needs to put the rocket up them. He said that when he first came in, he wanted there to be a black and white things he wanted the team to do and not to do. But he also had a bit of a grey area where he wanted the professionals to interpret that for themselves, where I think Chuck's black and white, those margins were a little bit thicker than Danny's, if that makes sense.
Panthers and Blaze also had a very, very close game quite recently that went to penalty shots, and Panthers coming out on top. That was at the NIC. They've tended to be very close games this season. Do you see that changing over this series of two games?
No, I really don't. I was at that game as well, Jono, and I actually had a lot of positive things to say about this performance. I think they went down twice by 2 goals in that game, and managed to come back and win in the shootout there with a couple of nice finishes. Yeah, these are two, I think, in my opinion, very evenly matched clubs. I think stylistically they're a little bit different. I don't know what Jason Williams is getting here for you guys as well, but for a team that managed to fight fire for fire with the Coventry Blaze in the NIC a couple of games ago, I was really impressed with how creative offensively the Panthers were. So, if they're bringing in a guy who has got a Stanley Cup under his belt, just an incredible Detroit Red Wings franchise those few years when he was there, it's going to make you guys a scary prospect to face, I think, for the defence and for Brian Stewart in net. So I think he's going to have a big influence, but I still think they're going to be close games. The Blaze have really found some form. And they started to get some goals and creativity from Robin Bergman and Matt Marquardt and Liam Stewart, guys that were a little bit snake-bitten earlier in the year.
Okay. Well, Ed, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come on the podcast tonight, and enjoy the game tonight.
Thanks, Jono. Anytime.
Many thanks to Ed for joining me earlier this evening. Guys, 2 games against Coventry, as we said in the interview. They've been pretty close games this season, but again, you'd be thinking that's 2 games we can win, Aaron.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, the last game that we played against them was a very, very close game. And I think, Ed spoke quite well there, and he said some good points. And I think I'd have to agree with him in the sense of, obviously, there are 2 close teams, like you said, quite evenly matched at times, but I just feel that they're still a team that is kind of stuttering along, and I think we potentially have more in our locker. Obviously, as all these games, it also depends on previous results regarding morale, whether they need a kick up the backside, etc. But that first game in the Sky Dome will be telling, really, because I think if we get a good performance and a good result there, then I think that gives us excellent confidence that we could potentially turn that 2 points into 4.
As we mentioned in the interview, Paul, we talked about the Blaze recently acquiring Barry Almeida and TJ Siner. The form has picked up somewhat, and then it's dipped again. I mean, if they lose tonight, that'll be 3 defeats on the trot. But those two coming in seems to have galvanised the Blaze a little bit, and they have started scoring a few more goals.
It does. I mean, obviously they were, that Danny Stewart needed to make changes, and he'd run out of players who were called Stewart to sign, so he brought those in. So, but they have made, they definitely made a positive change to the Blaze, and I think, if I'm honest, we'll struggle to beat the Blaze in Coventry. I mean, if Ant was doing impressions of Tina earlier, then I'll say what she always says. That it's we've not got a very good record there.
No,
I mean that's it.
It is a pretty awful record to say that, and as is theirs in the NIC. And you mentioned Tina there, but she was good enough to send through some of her usual stats, which I'm just about to pull up, so we'll go back to those. But Ant, a difficult. It's always a difficult game in the Sky Dome. It seems to be the intimidating atmosphere, the crowd being on top of you. The Panthers just don't seem to settle there.
I don't think it's that. I think it's Brian Stewart. If Stewie has one of his meltdowns or what have you, if we can get in his head and what have you, then we'll win. But if we don't score on him early, if we give him an easy ride of it, then Coventry will beat us, and that goes for the home game at our place as well.
Just I've got those stats up. So this is Panthers' record in the Sky Dome over the last 10 games there. 7 losses, 1 shootout loss, and 2 wins. So with 20 goals scored and 31 goals against. So that is a pretty horrendous record. Then you look at the record at the NIC against Coventry: 8 wins, 1 loss, and a draw, which was from the playoff game a couple of seasons ago. So it's almost a complete and utter role reversal.
Was that penalty shootout the one that went on forever?
Yes, that is the one.
Again, Brian Stewart is. I just hope we can, just at least put up a performance. I went to the game there at this time last year, and it wasn't fun to watch. Panthers have just got to play well. I mean, like I say, if we can somehow miraculously get a couple of wins over the Sheffield Steelers, which I doubt is going to happen, but if we do, we'll be flying. But isn't it just like us to then go to Coventry and after beating our nearest and dearest home and away, to then go to Coventry and get hammered? The one thing I will say about Coventry this season, every time you put a bet on them, they lose. So just you stay away from him, you bet against them, and they win, and then you bet on them and they lose. So stay away from them and your accumulators.
Fair enough. Time to move on to the final game of the sequence, which will be against the Edinburgh Capitals on Monday, the 2nd of January. It will now be a 4 p.m. face-off at the NIC after a controversial face-off change was made earlier this week.
But was it a face-off change?
Well, it was originally scheduled to be facing off at 7:30 p.m. and that's what was printed on the ticket. So yes, it was.
Wow, they're now saying that was a mistake and it was always 4 o'clock, which I think is a load of cobblers, frankly, because they got called out on the popular demand.
Yeah.
And I ran a poll on Twitter, and I think it was 60-40 thought it should have been 7:30. I just think I know we're sort of getting off topic here, but I just think it's pretty poor to actually change it at this late in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd have to agree. I mean, a lot has been said about it, and I know Aaron and Ant, you talked about it last night on the Ask TCW podcast, but I just, do you find the whole situation just a bit one, strange, and two, I think it's made the club look extremely unprofessional.
Yes. I don't know if you were talking to me, but I'll answer that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
It's as we said last night. It's not so much the time change itself. I mean, we said ourselves the 4 o'clock face-off. Even though I hate 4 o'clock face-offs, I'd rather them be 1 or 6. I'd actually prefer the 4 o'clock face-off anyway, because I'm at work first thing in the morning the next day. But how can you go around changing the times of face-off? Is when the tickets have already gone on sale. It's it's just madness, and then to clash with the football as well. And I know Forest aren't fantastic. They're not pulling up any trees so far this season, and they've got a ticket deal on, so they're shooting themselves in the foot. There's plenty of people that would have been able to do both, and now they've got to make a choice, one or the other.
Aaron, quickly.
I don't think changing a face-off makes us look unprofessional. I think as long as you have a clear explanation as to why that is, and the fact that 2 explanations have been given and they're both different, that's where it kind of makes us look a little bit unprofessional, shall I say.
Okay. On to the game itself, and of course Edinburgh winning the last time they was in Nottingham, a 4-2 victory. They're a different animal this season, Ant.
They are, but then they've not had a great run recently. We owe them, let's put it that way. And you've got to win your home games. I think it's just basically take what I said for the Dundee game and repeat it for the Edinburgh game, to be fair.
I mean, if we look back at the previous 10 that Tina again has kindly provided, at the NIC, 8 victories and 2 losses against the Edinburgh Capitals, 52 goals scored, 17 goals against. So Panthers have been pretty dominant at home against the Caps, but like you say, that one on the 29th of November, and Paul, I remember I wasn't at that game, you were, and you said that they were just a very, very good side.
They were, and we were a very poor one. I mean, they had a really, really good start, and they've sort of faltered a bit, I think, and I think they've got sort of netminder problems at the moment as well.
Yeah, they've drafted in Hull Pirates netminder, haven't they?
Yes, yeah. So I mean, it depends how quickly that's resolved, as well. But you can say this about any and every game, but it's one we can't afford to be complacent. We've got to just be, and I think there have been times where you've looked at Panthers' performances in the past and thought they were going to come here and win this today. So all they had to do was turn up and win it. You can't do that. I mean, we're in a situation where it's it's difficult for us, to see any way out if we keep losing games. Although obviously we are going to lose some at some point, but we just can't afford to not take things seriously.
Aaron, the Caps have lost 3-0 to the Belfast Giants tonight in Belfast. They've got another game there tomorrow. So it is probably going to be a tricky game, but it is one that we should be winning.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we will win that one. I think if you take everything into consideration, the travel, etc., and I also think just the fact of how well they performed last time they were down here, I think that should be a reminder for us. And I also think that obviously you're ending the festive period with that game, and it potentially you potentially have the opportunity to finish that period strongly. And I just think we will have too much for the Caps on that occasion.
Just one other thing about that game, which is related to that actual match is with the Supporters Trust, which we talked about a lot on this podcast. There was due to be a meeting at 6 p.m. in the Bunkers Inn. That will now take place because of the face-off change after the game. So half an hour after the final hooter, the meeting will still take place at the Bunkers upstairs, the Nottingham Panthers Supporters Trust second meeting, and new leaflets will be given out by the Trust at the home game against Sheffield. Okay guys, it's time to put your necks on the line. 6 games over the festive period, 12 points available. How many are we going to win? Paul, you start.
6.
6? Aaron?
6.
I'm going to go 9.
Blimey.
Heart says 12. Head says 7. I'll scrape a 7.
Yeah, and I will go 8. I think we'll get
8. I'm back to being the most unconfident one again. Yay! I was worried on Monday. I didn't feel right.
So we shall see what we come out with after those set of games, and we will be talking about them on the next podcast on the 3rd of January. In other news in the Elite League, Department of Player Safety bans were announced for Corey Cowick of the Braehead Clan, Phil Paquet of Fife, and Mike Forney of the Belfast Giants. There is a video come out from DOPS explaining the bans for Cowick and Paquet, but not for Forney. Guys, what do you make of them? Because especially the Braehead or the Braehead Fife game, Cowick was initially assessed a 2+10 check into the head penalty, and Paquet didn't even get a penalty at all. I mean, Paul, you've seen the video and you think they're almost identical.
They are. They're exactly the same offence has been committed. So, how something gets a 1-match ban that only gets a 2 or a 2+10 or no penalty at all is the bit that continues to confuse me. I do think one thing though, having seen the evidence, Forney is bang to rights.
What, the fact that there was no evidence at all? Hey, Aaron, what do you make of it?
I'll be honest, I've not seen the Braehead and Fife incident, so I can only go on what Mr. Balm says, and I trust that wholeheartedly. The Forney one, I thought it was interesting. I was flicking through Twitter during that game, and I just saw 2+2+5+ match, and I thought something's kicked off then. But I don't, if my memory serves me correctly, you didn't see anything for whoever he was fighting in the game. So I found that a bit weird and interesting at the same time. But I don't. Well, if Paul says he's bang to rights, then he's bang to rights, isn't he?
I mean, and isn't this the whole point of why DOPS was set up? Because you've got these two incidents that probably weren't dealt with sufficiently enough on the night, and now DOPS comes in and they drop the ban hammer for both of them, and it's like Paul says, bang to rights. And from what I saw of the video, I can't argue with the punishment that was dished out.
Unfortunately, like Aaron, I've not seen the videos, but I'd be surprised if nothing was said to the official in that first game. If like Paul says, the two incidents are exactly the same. I suppose it depends where the official was on the ice at the time and his view of it. But I'd be very surprised if nothing was actually taken forward with that official following that. But then. Isn't this just the Elite League to a T, though? The fact that they've released a video of one of the bans, but then they've not bothered with the other.
Yeah, I mean, it's well, it just beyond me. It really
it's almost like we were saying the other week, where they just announced bans or that there were not bans with no video evidence. We said this is a step back. This is actually almost worse.
Yeah,
you got one and said, "Oh yeah," and then it's just like. Just on one line at the end. And it's just like, take it for granted, take it from us. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, we will leave that there and move on to our thoughts on 2016 as a whole. So, I asked you earlier today what some of your thoughts on 2016, your highs and low points. So, of the people who are not taking part in the podcast tonight, so we've got Tina and Andy. So, Andy says his high point was the Challenge Cup final. His low point, we sent a couple of pictures to our WhatsApp group that I really don't want to broadcast anymore, so we'll leave it there. But he says his low point was Panthers not retweeting me. But looking at the pictures, evidence he put up, I'm not particularly surprised, to be honest.
I've got to disagree. I can't see anything wrong with either of those pictures. One of them even advertises the Panthers in a way. I was absolutely amazed.
Tina, she says her high point was another double. The low point was the double whammy of losing Jansen and Evan Mosey. Just on Evan Mosey, congratulations to him. He scored his first goal in the AHL last night for Rockford and also got an assist as well. So his first goal, first assist and first multi-point game in the AHL. So
no fight.
Many congratulations to him. No fight, so he didn't get a goal in. But, fair play to him. So, over to you guys, and I'll start with you. So, your high and low point of the season of 2016.
Obviously, winning trophies is always going to be a high point, but for me, winning the playoffs and knowing that took us into the Continental Cup, that was a massive high thing for me. I'm fully in support of elite league teams trying to progress in Europe. So giving us having a shot at that was great. Our low point has to be this season in that it started off quite promisingly and then we're out of the title race by November. It's thoroughly depressing, to be honest. It's not a happy time to be a Panthers fan at the moment.
Okay, Paul.
I think I probably agree with Andy for the high point and probably the low point. But the high point, I think the winning the Challenge Cup final. Yes, winning the playoffs was great as well. But just the way in which the Challenge Cup final was won, that single goal in overtime, in a very sort of tightly contested match. And just the release of emotion at the time just felt so much greater than the playoffs because we bossed the playoffs. We played four almost perfect games, just like 10 minutes at home where we let Belfast back into it. But apart from that, Mika Wheatman, what was it? He played in two semi-finals, 2 finals, and let in 1 goal.
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing. The low point is probably the fact that we exist in a sort of a Groundhog Day situation. We are where we were last season, where we were the last season before. People not getting replaced through on long-term injuries for whatever reason. And I originally, when you asked me this question, my answer was November, and just that feeling, that the club has made some inroads in terms of how they deal with the fans, but nowhere near enough. We're still talking about feeling like at times like we just open wallets, and that we're taken for granted by the club. So that, I think that is the low point for me. The fact that we just seem to be going round in circles.
Aaron.
Well, to be honest, Paul's pretty much said word for word what my highlight was. I think like he says, the Challenge Cup win. I've not felt that sort of tension. And then the release of energy when Mosey scored that goal. The fact it was in another arena, not an arena, not our arena. We won a trophy in somebody else's arena. The fact that it was just a great game of hockey. 2 good teams going at it. The longer it went on, you just felt that maybe Cardiff were going to get that one opportunity, or if a mistake that they might have nicked it, go into overtime where we were pretty much, dominant throughout that overtime. Brad Moran hitting the post, and 20 seconds later, Schultz hitting the post. And then just when Mosey scored, the release of energy, like Paul says, I've not felt that in a long time, to be honest. And that is why we love sport, for the highs that game provided us. So, yes, I love playoffs, the whole, sort of aura of playoffs, what it is. But I think that Challenge Cup was just amazing. And so that would be my highlight. The low point, I actually agree with Tina in the sense of Cam and Mosey leaving, purely because I feel that they were the two main cogs in this season's sort of wheel. I think probably the coaching staff built this year's team with those two in mind. What they provided us with last season, you can't replicate, and we're now seeing that. And I just think that is still potentially having an effect on this season right now. So that's kind of a low point for me. But the high outweighs the low, and purely because the league is gone unless something drastically happens, but there's still 3 more trophies up for grabs, which is the Continental Cup. So there's obviously negatives that are currently surrounding our club, etc. But 2017, or the beginning of 2017, still has the potential to be rather successful.
Okay, I think my high point would be like you, the Challenge Cup final. Just that moment when the goal was scored was unbelievable. And I'll not repeat what you guys said because my feelings are exactly the same. I think the low point for me was realising, probably in November, that we aren't going to win the league this season, and that was just I was really, I didn't really want to go to games because it was just that feeling, well, what's the point? It's November and we're already out of the race, and there's 4 or 5 months to go, and that was when I was feeling that probably the lowest point with the Panthers, and it has picked up a little bit recently, granted, but we're still not going to win the league, and I think at that stage of the season, a club of our size, that is pretty hopeless, frankly. But let's hope that 2017 can bring a turnaround in fortunes, and like you say, Aaron, the Continental Cup, it's a huge prize to go for. No British team has ever won it, so let's become the first team to win it, and let's make some history, and let's hope that we can have some early success in the new year. Just one final point, one final tweet from Colin Basford. He says the high point was meeting Cam Jansen. His low point was meeting Gary Moran.
I didn't think you'd read that out.
Wow.
Interaction with the fans, that's what this show's all about. So.
Merry Christmas, Gary.
And I think we will wrap it up for 2016. On a personal note, I want to say thank you very much to everyone who's listened to the podcast throughout the year. We've obviously made some big changes at the start of this season by going live 3 times a week, and you've continued to stick with us and support us and listen in vast numbers. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to say many, many thanks for that. It does make us incredibly humble. We're just a group of fans putting our opinions out there, and the fact that you want to listen to us is, makes us feel very grateful. So thank you very much for that. And I suppose all that's left is to wish everyone, hockey fans all over the world, wherever you're listening, a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And it's time to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thanks very much to Paul Balm.
I'd just like to say as well, just remembering the words of the late, great Greg Lake, the Christmas you get, you deserve. So think on, Panthers. Think on. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Antoine Marie-Jeanne.
Have a great Christmas, everybody, and let's hope for 12 points out of 12.
And finally,
you are Tina, aren't you? You are Tina.
TTFN.
And finally, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas to Aaron Lord.
Thank you very much, Jono. And if I could just take this moment to say, I know Paul wanted to do this, but he said he'd get too emotional, but to thank you for all the hard work that you do for the podcast and what you've done in 2016. You put a lot of time and effort into this, so that's very much appreciated by us as part of the team. And I wish you and Paul and Ant and Tina and Andy and every listener a very Merry Christmas. Have a Happy New Year. Drink, eat, be merry, and cheer on your team.
Thank you. And on behalf of Andy, Tina and Adam, who obviously aren't on the show tonight, and Happy New Year, Merry Christmas to them as well, and thank you very much to them for all the hard work I know it's that they put in throughout the year. Right, that really is it. Thank you very much for listening, and we will speak to you again in 2017. Let's hit the titles.